It was important to prevent the development of Bair Island for a number of reasons. It was diked off over 100 years ago, was cut off from the bay, is used for salt production and agriculture. It does provide habitat for a number of endangered species, the least tern, salt marsh harvest mouse, as well as a number of sensitive species like our harbor seals and other animals like that. This particular site is huge. It's 3,000 acres, which is part of why it's so important. I met Ralph and Carolyn Nobles in 1982 when they were forming the Friends of Redwood City. They had a lot of respect for everybody. I don't think they saw people as enemies, they just saw people that had a different opinion of how things should be. Also, they did their homework. They knew what they were talking about because they knew when people had that information, they would do the right thing with it.
When the city council decided that they were going to change the zoning, the night that decision was made, there were a lot of us in the audience because Ralph had sort of told us this was coming up. And so I stood outside the chamber that night and organized, and we decided to have a referendum. Never happened before in Redwood City. It was a very hard campaign. And of course, on election night, we had lost, but it was a teeny little margin. And the word was that down at our little headquarters, we're going to go for a recount. Well, the number varies between 44 and 40, a very tiny margin. We won. And it was unbelievable, just unbelievable. But this was just the beginning.
My direct association with the Friends of Redwood City was long after their successful referendum of the project on Bair Island. But that did not preserve Bair Island from further destruction by development. When I called the Nobles and I said, we had this idea for that land you preserved from horrible development, saved in federal ownership, owned by the people and protected. Carolyn and Sandra Cooperman came to the first meeting of that group in this house. And they said, yes, that sounds like a good idea to us. And that really gave me a lot of courage, that if those people who worked so hard on that political issue feel that this idea would further protect that land, that we had a chance at it.
At that point, this company, Kumkai Gumi, was talking about building on Bair Island. So I went to Bill Rukeyser and he said, yeah, this sounds really interesting. And he came down and we agreed that he would try and help us strategize a campaign that would get us Bair Island. And he gave me this suggestion. He said that, the Japanese are very private and don't want publicity. So if you can reveal the owner, it might get to the point where they're ready to talk about how do we not appear the bad guys. Bill said, here's another thought. The West Coast edition of the New York Times is very small circulation, just in the tens or 20s of thousands. But that's what they read in Japan. So that all came together. Mostly Phil, Florence, Ralph, and Carolyn worked on the text. And then it came out in the New York Times. Ta-da, here's the picture. And it says, please let Bair Island go back to nature. 2 weeks later, the company was talking to the Fish and Wildlife Service about potential transfer.
There's been a lot of studies done by the scientific community, and they have concluded that the bay needs about 100,000 acres of healthy tidal marsh. And so when you are able to preserve and restore 3,000 acres, that's a significant contribution towards that goal. And that really shows the importance of acquiring these 3 islands. It's just been amazing to see how quickly life takes hold, and we feel privileged that we're able to witness this transformation up close and personal and in our lifetime.
I think it's just a great story of how, in that time, everybody was willing to collaborate and work together to achieve these victories. And so it's particularly satisfying at Bair Island because we did it.
We were just a tiny little idea that blossomed into what we have now.